I've been working on both the upper arm pieces, and I've got pretty much both of them finished now, up to the point where they're ready to be polished. I still have to get the permanent lock pins made up for those, similar to what I've got in those ones. But all the control rods and control ends and that sort of stuff have actually been sorted out for those now, along with where the cabling goes in the back, and the secondary mount for the other side of the elbow joint has been sorted out as well. Some of the sort of techniques I've done in the assembly of the upper arms uses techniques that are deliberately invisible, and the sort of things that will actually never be seen. And I thought I might actually demonstrate one of the techniques that I've actually developed that actually creates an invisible rivet system that other people may find it useful. I've seen a few people on the RPF forum who are doing things like building the Captain America shield, and they're having a hard time to get the inside plates to attach to the aluminium shield. And they've ended up using things like glue and double-sided tape and that sort of stuff. And this is just another different technique that I think might be useful for those sort of people as well. So what I've got here is a piece that I was going to use, but I've ended up not doing so. I've deliberately cracked the seal down here a little bit so you can actually see where the rivet actually sits. There's another one around here. I don't think the camera's picking it up, it's just there. And I guess that's the whole point, is that these are actually supposed to be invisible. On the other side there, where you can see it's been sanded, it's pretty indistinguishable where the actual rivet components are. And anybody who is actually doing work with alloy stuff, who wants to actually join one piece to another, but still have it virtually invisible, I think this might be a helpful technique. I think most people would be familiar with the traditional sort of rivet and rivet gun setup. The technique that I'm using is similar in a lot of ways, apart from the fact that it doesn't use a gun and it doesn't actually use a standard rivet. The rivets I'm creating are cold forged pieces of aluminium, and as the name would suggest, it doesn't require any heat to actually do this technique. So I'll just show you briefly how it actually works. So you can see that's not very straight, but that's not what we're going for here at the moment anyway, so it's not going to make a big difference. So the key difference with this sort of technique is, number one, the thickness in the metal that you're going to be using. You can't go terribly thin. I think if I show that other piece there, that's probably the minimal thinness, for want of a better word, that you can go with and still actually get a successful sort of bond of any sort of strength. There's a lot of lineal strength in this. There's a lot of sideways torque strength going this way. But if I was to actually grab that and sort of peel it off, it's not going to have probably as much strength as a traditional rivet would do. Okay, so that's your normal preparation, and normally you just whack a rivet through there, give it a pinch, and you're ready to go. The key difference with what I'm doing is I'm actually going to sort of use a countersink position just slightly. So I'm just going up to a slightly larger drill piece. It doesn't have to be absolutely precise for the sake of what we're doing. And I'm just going to slightly countersink. And again, it doesn't need to be very much. Okay, and the same thing on the reverse side of these pieces. I don't want to go any more than about halfway through. The biggest thing is I don't want to, there's a little burr piece there. I want to make sure that there's no burring edges. That's the biggest thing. Okay, I should mention the drill piece sizes that I've used match the piece of rod that I'm actually using to put through it. This is aluminium rod, and it's not quite going to go through the hole, so I want it to be quite a tight fit. So that's basically what I'm after. Next thing I need to do is cut two pieces for this thickness, probably about 1.5 centimeters long in each. So you can see I've cut those a couple of bits off. Again, doesn't have to be anything special. The only special thing that I've done with it is, before I've cut each piece, on one end of each of them is just done a very light sanding so that it's slightly tapered, so that it fits the hole a little more easily. I've got a piece of wood here where you can see there's a countersunk hole there, where I can actually position it so that these can get knocked through. I want it to be about halfway through. So I've just moved over to my anvil to actually do the next stage of what I'm talking about. You can see there that the rivet piece is significantly longer than what I need it to be. Because this is a cold forging method, I need it to be a little bit longer than it needs to be, and then we'll cut it down and then do it again. And this works particularly well with the aluminium because the aluminium can deform quite well. If you didn't have an anvil, you could use the back of a hammer. You could use the flat part of a hammer and actually go that way if you wanted to. So what I'm trying to do is just initially bring it together so that that starts to sort of tighten up. That's as far as I want to go at this stage. Now I'll go and put the other rivet in place. So that's the other piece that's been put in place. The next thing, or the last thing I've got to do before I finish it, is I need to cut these off and sand them to a flat surface so that they're no more than about 2 or 3 millimeters from the overall top or the overall surface of the metal. The idea behind that is that if you leave them too high like this one here, the metal will fracture and it'll split as you go down. So you want to have just the metal a little bit proud above the surface. It's just a matter of hammering them flat down now. You can see how, as I've done that, the metal deforms out into the hole where we've countersunk that slightly, and it fills up that gap nicely. Now, if you wanted to, you could have left them a little higher than what I've done there, and they would have been an exposed rivet, but in this instance, we want to try and make it as invisible as possible. So now that that's done, it's really just a matter of sanding them off, and hopefully they'll be completely invisible. So that's it with the tops sanded off, and that provides a pretty solid join. You can see one there where I haven't sanded it quite as much, so you can sort of see what it looks like, and you can see just a slight colour difference there in the different, which highlights the other one. But on that side where I've given it a bit better sand, you can see, again there you can just see on that light angle there, you can just pick up the 2 rivet pieces. But with a brushed metal finish, or even with a polished finish, they would pretty much completely disappear, and you've got a pretty solid join. It's probably, as I said, it's not as strong in that direction, but certainly in the other direction it's as strong as any other rivet would be. So I'll probably be setting the alloy stuff aside now so that I can get back to getting some moulds finished. I've still got the upper arm pieces there that need a little bit more work, but slowly but surely it's coming together. I'm fairly happy with the movement of it so far. Hopefully somebody finds the rivet technique that I demonstrated there useful. Hope you like this update, guys. Talk to you next time.